From the cloudy England to the hills of Styria. This is FS1 qualifying. 15 minutes to set the grid for race 1, with many drivers on the field eager to continue their good form, and many drivers in the field desperate to improve their result from the first half of the season. We're halfway through to the season, this is round 9 of 16, and we're racing at the Red Bull Ring, 4.3 kilometers, 2.6 miles. DRS of plenty to be used and 10 turns, the heavy stops into 1, 3 and 4. In the commentary box, and joining me for the first time, it's hello to none other than young Granqvist.
Well, hello there, Marko. It's quite funny to see you on this side of the commentary box. And yeah, it's looking to be quite an intriguing race, this one. A bit of rain even looking to be possible for this round. But yeah, good to have you here. And
Yes, indeed. And I'm very excited to see these guys battle again. Still getting used to just how close this championship is every single race. You know, this track provides so much great racing. We saw the FS2 races earlier this week, and this qualifying session, if the previous qualifying session of FS1 are anything to go by, then we don't have a clue who's going to be on pole, and I do quite like it this way.
Yeah, absolutely. And I have to say, like, even racing last year in this series, well, it was called the Super Cup back then, but nothing much has changed. Still, some of the top names here are even the same. Owen McGorgy and Tom Stevens, two very, very hard racing rivals of mine that I know very well, and quite a couple more even down the field. And honestly, looking also at the history of this track, lap times are going to be insanely close. So it's going to be very interesting as we actually go on board with Owen McGorgy.
There we go, Owen McGorgy started his first qualifying lap of this session. Obviously, last year's pole time was a 1 minute 9.2, whereas this year we're expecting low to mid 10s, which meaning obviously cars have got a bit slower compared to last year, and this could mean also more racing, more closer racing than last year as well around here.
Yeah, as we go into turn 2, or well, turn 3 supposedly, opening DRS, coming on to the second fastest straight. This is actually where you achieve your top speed due to the downhill going into this turn. Turn 4, very easy to go too wide here. However, Owen handles it beautifully. And so far, so good. Let's see what this lap time will bring us.
Owen's actually purple in sector 1 out of everyone on track. A lot of green sectors, obviously.
This is looking strong.
Yeah, in the middle sector, actually, the stream does say he's purple, but it's actually Tom Stevens who's purple in the middle sector. So this will be a close lap time between Owen and Tom. Let's see what his bank lap is.
Oh, I saw a slight wiggle there. It was quite aggressive, but let's see.
10.8, and Tom Stevens beats it, 10.6. This is already pretty close to what I think the pole position might be today. And we saw for a second, we saw our virtual drivers by TX3 driver, which is actually a new team entering the championship.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, they entered.
I didn't even know that.
E-Team withdrew from the championship, and we had an application process, and they were the one chosen to.
That's interesting. Hopefully, we'll see more of them this race.
Yeah,
and, actually, as they are on the screen right now, Fabian Balle,
and I believe his teammate is Roberto Pignatara. So on paper, this is a pretty strong lineup.
Yeah, I actually heard of these two drivers quite a few times as well, going into these GPV races. So it'll be interesting to see, really, where they'll manage. As we see Alexander Ragosa.
Surprisingly, with a purple first sector. Not the best of middle sectors, but he runs.
That is very, very on the limit.
As Moritz crosses the line, and Zubinski P2 as well. That is a big surprise.
Wow, absolutely, yeah. Zubinski, that is a very, very nice lap. Manages to split Tom Stevens and Owen McGorg and actually just get ahead of him by 0.003 of a second. That's how close they are at this moment of time.
Yeah, and over the last few days, I've been following the race view quite a bit, and I saw that the likes of Zibinski, Ragosa, even Karadas, they were quicker than races so far this season. So it'll be interesting. Maybe we have even more than just a three-way fight for the lead this race.
Sounds very interesting. It's all cooking up right here, right now with Fabian Balle. Is he going on a second attempt after his first lap?
Well, not the best middle sector, so I think he'll back out of it.
Yeah, looks like he's backed out of it. That first sector looked pretty quick, though. He boxes and go out again. Right. I'm interested in also Darius Andre. He's an extremely fast driver that I know of, and at the moment he hasn't set a time. So what could that be about? Has he abandoned his lap?
I believe he does not have any penalty this round, so I'm actually quite surprised at that. He's actually out on track, so maybe he did a mistake on his first run, decided to box, and will go again this time around.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
As we see Dylan Terbotten on his lap, so it's not Pignatara actually who's driving, it's Terbotten with a green sector 1, green sector 2, about a second and a tenth off in the first two sectors.
I believe that is a new name to me, at least. I don't think I've heard of Dylan.
I don't think he's ever raced in any of the bigger leagues on F-Factor.
Well, that seems like a pretty decent time, though. He manages to get himself in front of quite a few people at the moment, even into P18. So not too bad. 1.5 seconds off. That's not bad by any means.
As Owen McGorgy goes quick sector 1, quick sector 2. I think this is going to be very close for pole position here.
Oh, that is looking rapid. Sticks it way, way, way cleaner through the last sector. This looks very quick. And it is pole. Provisional pole, that is.
Already, as his teammate Craig Patterson. Currently P15, once again, good sector 1, good sector 2. Cross the line. And he stays P16, interestingly, not the best of the final sectors. Here we go then. Darius Andre without a lap time on the board so far. But Sector 1 looks quick. Let's see the Sector 2 splits.
Yeah, now this is what I'm interested in. I know that TCS Alpha are very quick this season, and Darius Andre, obviously, I have raced him before, and I know he is very fast.
As he goes now into the last corner on the track. Decent exit, opens the DRS, across the line. It's going to be a 11.0, surprisingly. He
Oh, okay.
might have made a mistake in the middle sector that we haven't noticed.
It would seem so, looking at how fast his first and last sector were.
And once again, the top three are the same top three as in the championship, just proving their dominance so far this season as well, which is interesting to see.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that, actually, because even though they are the dominant three, like you said, looking at the gaps to the rest of the field, this is incredibly tight. It is incredibly close between all of top 10. They are all within 0.4 of each other. It's super close at the moment, and it's really nice to see.
Stevens takes pole and his teammate Morris Drop does not improve, stays in P7 here. And he should get 1 or 2 more attempts. As also Ragosa goes P4 but drops down to P5 because Hemming goes to P3. A lot of position changes as of right now. We're seeing 7 minutes left of the session.
Yeah, and it's pretty evident that the track is also improving at the moment. The grip is getting higher at the moment, and right now we'll see as the times keep tumbling down.
Billy Koenig's an interesting one. Not the best start of the season. Scored his first points 2 runs ago in Canada only, so it'll be interesting to see if he can improve. Currently P18 in the championship, so I think he's gonna be very happy if he manages to qualify in the top 10 as it's looking right now. Solid lap for him so far, for his standards at least.
Yeah, it's looking decent through the first sector, but again, that middle sector is what really could cost you a lot of time, as well as the last sector, obviously. Even though it is only 2 corners, those are 2 very fast and tricky corners that you can get wrong and lose all your time in. As
Damien Karas thinks on a fast lap as well, 2 green sectors for him. Let's see him across the line. This could be very good for the Polish driver. It's P5, I think he'll be happy with that.
Yeah, it's not bad. Like you said, again, only P5, although he's still under 0.2 away from provisional pole at the moment. So it is just... It must be also frustrating seeing that they're that close. However, they're also 5 positions away.
Yeah, I don't remember the last time the FS1 qualifying was so close, if I'm honest. I believe last season pole... I think the first and second were like 0.4 ahead of everyone else in qualifying, so it's nice to see everyone being so close. I remember at the start of the season, like 2-3 drivers were at the front, and then there was like 7-8 attempts to everyone else. So it's nice to see the field catching up to the front runners.
You don't have to remind me of that season of Super Cup. I remember very well how hard it was, how tough it was to catch up to the THRs of then, and of course. Times have moved on, and I reckon this field has also evolved. As we can see, like everyone is so close together, and Nocturne essentially having the same personnel, not the drivers, but people creating the setups and the people behind the scenes working on the same car. They're not as dominant as they were last season.
Yeah, and that's interesting to see, to say the least. As not many green sectors at the moment. We see Vincent Gadhi in P20. I think he'll want to get into at least top 15 in qualifying. Let's see if he manages to do that on this lap. It's P17. 0.8 off, which I'm not sure he'll be happy with that.
Well, happiness is subjective, of course. Although I will say Frank Hamming must be very happy with that first sector. However, he still needs to stick it through the lap, as he has gone purple. So let's see how this middle sector goes on. Like I've said before, it's very tricky. It is the most turn-heavy sector of the track, and the most time you can lose or gain. As he goes very quick through the middle sector, it looks like he could get provisional pole for now. He just needs to nail the 2 last corners, clean, do not get a cut track. Oh no, and he's gone wide and he's spun around, and it's not going to be provisional pole for him. That is a shame, as the first and second sector looked so incredibly fast.
And Vincent got not fast in the middle sector, backing out. Owen McGaughey, personal best in the first sector, 18.6 from him. What can he do now in the middle sector? Obviously, he seems to be very quick today once again. I heard from him a bit, he's not looking forward to this round, but by the looks of things, he's on pace after all, as he goes through the middle sector. Not his personal best, but still very, very quick. I think he can still put it on pole despite the yellow middle sector.
Not looking forward to this round, he says, as he puts quite some substantially quick lap times together and could get provisional pole, as he does by 6,000ths of a second.
This is insanely close, as Tom Stevens backs out and will have one more go at this. As Phil Koenig there in P14, a 10 down in the first sector, 10.5 down in the middle sector. What can he do in the last sector? Currently P14, cross the line, P12 for Philip Koenig.
Always nice to see improvements coming up, although Moritz Kropp seems to have dropped it in the last corner as well, which seems to be very tricky today for drivers as they find their way back into the track. Jake Dennehan, though, purple in the middle sector, but looks to have also backed out on his lap. He seems to have made a mistake on the first sector, though. 0.2 down, it seems, which 0.2 you might think is not too much. However, you look at the timing tables, and 0.2 is enough to drop you all the way down to P7, which is, again, just incredible how close everyone is at the moment.
Yeah, exactly, and it's going to be a last run for most people now with a minute and a half left. Those leaving the pits will have one final attempt at trying to put it on pole for race one. Jason Muscat is another interesting driver. I think he's been very consistent this season, unlucky as well. Currently in P7, solid first sector, very good middle sector. Can he improve? Oh, he goes a bit wide, and I think he invalidated that lap.
Yeah, it's very on the limit. Those will give you cut tracks, unfortunately, and invalidate your lap times, so, and also slow you down slightly, so not ideal.
As we see, Omari Watson, currently P15, jumps to P12 ahead of Koenig. And also Adrian Favor is another one here who looks to be improving. 2 tenths down in the first sector, 2.5 tenths down in the middle sector, across the line. Does not improve his lap time, but will have one more shot at it. As now we wait for the fastest people on the track to start their final qualifying laps. Tom Stevens has actually started it, but did not improve in the first sector. So he might be out of this fight for pole position.
Now this is where everything spices up as we build up to the climax of this qualifying, as Jake Dennehan loses it out of the first corner and he loses his rear wing, and that is it for Jake Dennehan, I'm afraid. As Tom Stevens actually manages to get his time lost from the first sector to the second sector, and he's right around bouncing about that delta for provisional pole. Is it going to be pole for Tom Stevens in the Austrian Grand Prix? It is going to be... No, it is not. He loses out by just a couple of thousandths, as he has on his previous lap already. So that just shows how on the limit these people are, as Owen McGaughey, purple in the first sector, looking to improve on his provisional pole lap time. Can he do it? Is another question. But is there anyone else out on track at the moment looking to dethrone any of these guys?
It does not look like it. So I think Owen has pole, but whether he wants to improve that gap or not, it's up to him. I think he'll go for it, obviously, but there is absolutely
incredible middle sector from Owen. He's gone a 10th quicker, even though he's already gone purple in the first sector. It all looks to be down to the final sector, whether he can make it an incredible lap time. What will it be? And he goes purple in the final sector and manages to extend that gap to nearly 0.2 of a second, which is quite a margin looking at how close they were in the middle of this session.
Not looking to read this round, by the way, she said. So Pole position for Megagi. P2 for Steven. It's a British 1-2 in qualifying. Third place, surprisingly, Alexander goes up, P5 Hamming, and in fifth place, Jake Dennehan, who won the last 3 races of the Formula Sprint 1 championship, as he see top 10. I believe it's a debut race for Bobke Hoekstra as well this season. I know he raced a lot in the past, and now he's replacing Menneklont, who is missing out today's race.
A fellow commentator and racer, Menneklont. Nice to see new names though here. Well, not new in the sense of Wopke. He's obviously raced in GPV before, but it's nice to see that there are a few new names here, like Noah Dorma, I believe he's not a primary driver for Formula Sprint 1 either. And what else have we got here as we look at the grid from P11 to 20? A very underwhelming qualifying, I have to say, for Darius Andre in P12 at the moment. But then again, he is roughly 6/10ths off, which in other tracks might not be that much. So really, I don't know what to say. It's a very close field at the moment, and looking forward to what the race will bring us.
Yeah, the scene is set for a very interesting race here today in Austria. However, we'll go on a break now quickly, and we'll be back in time for the race start. Good evening once again from Spielberg in Austria and welcome to location stepped in motor racing history. GPV has visited this track for the first time in 2002, making it a 20-year anniversary since the first race. And now, FS1 takes into stage as we run the first race of the evening, round 9 of the season. Thank you very much for joining us for what promises to be a rather exciting race. 35 laps around the Red Bull Ring to decide our winner of race 1. It's a fantastic setting for what we hope will be a brilliant race, and I'm still joined by Jan Granqvist in the commentary box. Jan, what do you expect from this race?
Well, hello there again, and as we've sort of been talking throughout quali, it's a very close field lap time wise, so I reckon nothing different for the race, honestly. It's looking to be extremely close and tightly packed, so we can expect a lot of wheel-to-wheel action, and certainly not going to be deprived of any of that for this round. I expect it for race 2 as well.
So, and I think this is one of those races, just like Monza, for example, where you just want to stay in the DRS train. You don't want to lose DRS, because once you lose it, it's game over for you unless you make something with the strategy.
Yeah, that's a good point. Obviously, with the DRS, you're able to keep your pace in check while you're also able to see what the guys ahead of you are doing. However, of course, if you have that extra pace in you, it's a tough decision you have to make whether to just go for the overtake or stay in the DRS and conserve or reserve your batteries for that full-out attack then. But yeah, as you said, it's going to be interesting seeing what people will come up with the DRS.
Yeah, exactly. And I think also the video window is going to be extremely important here. Obviously, it is easy to overtake, but it's also easy to stuck in the DRS train. So you want to make sure you have the strategy on point, I think.
Yeah, as is the case with most tracks. I'm not too familiar with the strategies in FS1, however, so you'll have to do more of the talking with that, but
that's all right.
It'll be exciting to see if there are any rogue strategies going out there. As we go for the formation lap. And here we see the starting order for the FS1 Austrian Grand Prix, with Owen McGorgy taking pole and Tom Stevens making it an all-British front row, with Alexander Ragosa and Frank Hamming rounding out the second row. Jake Dennehan in P5, Mateusz Zubinski P6, Damien Kardash, followed by Moritz Kropp rounding out P8. Jason Muscat in P9 and Wopke Hoekstra in P10, with Adrian Faber and Darius Andre in 11th and 12th respectively. Murray Watson taking P13, with Philip Koenig starting beside him, and Fabian Ballet and Alessandro Valente following right after. Vincent Gutt in P17, Craig Patterson P18, Rafał Lukaszewski in P19, with Noah Duhamel rounding out the top 20. Gerrit de Vries starting from P21, and Dylan Tarboton, a debutant, in P22, and Sandra Vassan P23, and I'm sorry I've missed P24. Panasenko, that was P24, and Mike Quint P25, Stavros Mercedes in P26.
Obviously, as we said before, strategy is very important, and speaking of strategy, from P11 to P13 we have 3 starters on the medium tire, so expect them to either go very long in this race or a bit early, as obviously there is refueling in this race, so there is more to the strategy to just the casual undercut overcut, as we see the front runners now getting to the grid spots, and it's a calm before the storm.
Absolutely. This is the point where you get your palms sweaty, arms weak, knees heavy. Wait, sorry, I got that wrong. Yeah, but essentially, this is where the climax begins, as everyone seems to have taken their grid spot. The lights will come on any moment now.
Just notice there's still...
And lights on. It is 4 lights, 5 lights, and it's Let's Go Racing at the Austrian Grand Prix. Seems like Owen McGoggy has got a great start. However, Tom Stevens seems to have taken that inside spot from him, and they're side by side going double file through turn 1, while the rest of the grid seems to have followed nicely in suit. And it's going to be another side by side into turn 3. With Tom Stevens taking that inside line once again. However, Owen McGoggy seems to have defended his position sufficiently and is keeping the lead for now.
As I believe we had a crash in the backs, a few drivers spinning off, but we see, Tom Stevens going for a move, does not work there. Into turn 4 and now he's under pressure from Frank Hemming.
I believe that is Moritz Kropp in the other nocturne. Oh, no, I'm sorry, I'm completely wrong there. That is Tom Stevens, you're correct.
As we see now, the question is, will Tom Stevens go for a move and potentially try and run away, or will he stay in the DRS? Maybe save some fuel, go a lap extra on the strategy, try the overcut on Owen McGoggy. Everything here is to play for.
Absolutely, and when fueling is on the cards, it is an interesting question. Obviously, with fuel, you want to bring as much as you can for the start, so that you can then later overcut everyone with lighter fuel. Oh no, and it looks like Moritz has gotten it very wrong out of turn 1 and is rejoining in P18. Doesn't seem like he's lost any body parts or gotten any damage from that. However, that will be a massive dent to his race.
Exactly,
which is very
as we see on
unfortunate.
the left, Darius Andre, the big gainer in that first lap, gained 6 places.
Oh my goodness. You're absolutely right, and that was on medium tires as well. So that is just a dream start for Darius.
Yeah, exactly, and it will be interesting to see if we can gain any more places before the pit window. As by the looks of things, Tom Stevens is slightly dropping back, however he's still in the DRS zone. As we see Craig Patterson defending from Vincent Gott for P13.
Yeah, I reckon all these positions are going to start settling at around lap 3 to those DRS slots, as we've been talking. But as of right now, it looks like Owen McGoggy is really setting the pace, and Tom Stevens is having to answer. But as of right now, he's still in that DRS range, just about also getting the toe of Owen McGoggy, so it's all to play for.
It'll be interesting to see whether Owen will try and push hard as possible to try and get away from the DRS train, which will obviously bring everyone on the back of Tom Stevens, meaning that Owen will probably even extend his lead to a few seconds rather than just a few tenths. As we
see a very beautiful side-by-side action between Philip Koenig and Adrian Faber. Trying it again into turn 4, are they? Philip Koenig around the outside. Can't quite make it stick, however, very nice attempt. And this is some beautiful racing we're seeing right now.
Indeed, as we see there. A huge battle for P15. Garrett is thinking about setting it on the inside of Musaidis, but he decides to back out of it and will probably go for the move on one of the straights in the next lap or two.
Yeah, it's very interesting seeing these because that's Gerrit de Vries. He's on softs while the car behind him, I believe, was on mediums, and he's extremely close to his bumper, as is Tom Stevens to Owen McGoggy. Could this be his chance to steal the lead? It looks to be, as he opens the DRS, and he's right around the outside of him. He's in front going into the corner, and it's not all over yet. Owen McGoggy actually gets an incredible exit, and he'll be getting DRS. Wait, excuse me. Oh, there was a backmarker, I believe, who's managed to get the DRS open for both of these rivals as they go side by side yet again. However, it looks like Tom Stevens has stolen the lead from Owen McGoggy at lap 4. What incredible racing we're already seeing.
And there's already a breakaway group. Top 4 seems to be slightly ahead of everyone else at the moment, and Frank Hemming is on the back of Owen McGoggy. Looks like Stevens is extending the gap just slightly, but once McGoggy gets the DRS, he'll be on his back straight away.
You're absolutely right. However, if the top continues battling as they are, it's very possible that this train might catch up to them from the back of the field. So really, it looks like there is no such breakaway group quite yet, as they're all in the DRS trainers. That's Frank Hamming getting it wrong through turn 1, going over the sausage curb, which really unsettles your car if you drive over it.
Yeah, and that's an easy corner to get it wrong, especially in these cars with even less downforce than the Super Lights and the Super League cars. But we're seeing a nice battle here between Zubinski and Hamming going to turn 4. Let's see, he'll be able to brake later.
It absolutely is a game of chicken here with who manages to brake later, as it seems to have settled for now. The TCS off pair seem to be battling it out. It seems Jake Dennehan has gotten past his teammate, however, and probably looks to extend this gap for now as he's on the softer tyre compound.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if Jake will try and run away from Darius, or will he help Darius to stay in P8 by giving him DRS here. But that's going to be an interesting one to see, especially on the strategy who's going longer as well.
Yeah, I believe Darius Andre might not have the pace to keep up with Dennehan if Dennehan is really looking to catch up to the top here. So as we actually see right now, it is Hoekstra looking for an opportunity there. However, he also gets it wrong in turn 1 and now looks to be under pressure from Amari Watson.
Yeah, and
as they go side by side into turn 3. I still do not know whether to call it turn 2 or turn 3. As they exit side by side as well, DRS open for both of them, and it's also a battle for the lead as they are side by side yet again for turn 4. And will it be Owen McGorgy this time in front? It is so close. He's just about to the side of Tom Stevens. However, Tom Stevens seems to have kept it once again for another lap. And this battle... Oh no, and it looks like Owen has gone wide and he's almost lost out. Or he seems to be losing out even to P4 at the moment. Frank Hamming eyeing out that opportunity and takes it from Owen and is now in P3.
And this puts Tom Stevens in a great position in this race because he might be able to pull away from the DRS train behind. However, Rogoza did stay in DRS, and I think they're gonna close up once again and
yeah,
go
it
in
is.
train as we would before.
It is possible. We'll have to keep an eye on Rogoza's speed, as Sandra Vassand seems to have gotten it wrong as well. A very interesting place to lose your rear wing, however. I'm not quite sure how he's... Oh, he must have spun and lost his rear wing earlier in the lap, it seems.
Quite possible, and unlike some other people, he at least didn't cause an accident without a wing, so that's good.
Yeah, kudos to him, really. It's it's also a skill to avoid causing further incidents after you've caused one yourself, so...
For sure. As it looks like now the top group is settling down a bit. It'd be interesting to see what Owen's gonna do, obviously slightly out of position now. So we'll see whether he goes for the moves or he just comes down and stays in P4.
Kardas looking very feisty indeed.
Kardas and Zubinski close in this race. I think Zubinski still has DRS, and obviously that will help him a lot to defend from Kardas, but we see Rogoza going slightly wide there out of turn 1. Which
actually interesting was that Rogoza set the fastest lap last lap. He was extremely close to Stevens up until that point, but seemed to have lost the rear into turn 1 and almost got into trouble with Frank Hamming. However, he seems to be in a safe distance from both of them. Just
proves how important the DRS is around this track, obviously, to set the fastest lap. And Darius Andre is going for a move. No, he decides to back out. That's interesting. Yeah, Darius Andre on mediums faster than his teammate on softs.
Yeah, that's true. It's surprising. I was thinking Jake Dennehan would have already seized this opportunity and just pushed and gotten into that top fight. However, it seems like the TCS off guys battling it out yet again.
As Rogoza, I think, it has closed up to Tom Stevens as well a few times, 1 or 2 times. And
Yeah, it looks Ragoza is very, very fast throughout the lap. He just needs to not make a mistake into turn 1, and it could very well be his opportunity to seize the lead.
Now this does make me wonder, because Ragoza isn't usually up here in the races. Did everyone else maybe fuel up for the whole race to have a shorter pit stop? And Ragoza is just going for the normal strategy of putting as much fuel as you need for one stint and then filling back up for the second one.
No, it is very possible. And as we actually say that, Ragoza has gotten past Tom Stevens. However, Tom Stevens is now in his slipstream. Could he potentially get back the lead in the next corner? Doesn't look like it, because he did not get the DRS open for himself, and that makes the difference.
It will be interesting to see if Ragoza manages to pull away from the group, or will Tom Stevens strike again in a lap or two, as the race seems to be settling down a bit, at least in the midfield. Obviously, I think everyone's waiting for the pitch window now at this point, at least most people, to see where they actually are in this race. As by the looks of things, I think Tom Stevens is on the back of Ragoza again, so we might see a repeat of the last lap, just in just the swap of positions. As Spinsky, we look at Spinsky now, who is on the back of Magogi.
You're absolutely right.
Tom Stevens, I don't think he's quite close enough this time around.
This battle is certainly not dying down. It's very much because of the DRS, I believe. The leader will always be slightly slower than those behind, which is a very tricky situation to be in, because you're under such heavy pressure.
Exactly, as Tom Stevens. I think he went a slightly bit wider through 24, so but didn't lose too much time as Koenig gets passed by Adrian Faber. Both PZZW guys running in P5 and P11, which I think they'll be happy with that. They haven't been up there this season, so it's nice to see new teams competing for good positions in the races.
Yeah, absolutely. It's looking to be quite a good evening for them. As we look at Philip Koenig at the moment, eyeing his opportunity on 2 medium runners in front of him, which are Adrian Faber and Omari Watson. At the moment, it looks like Philip Koenig might have the pace, and interestingly enough, I have to say, it almost seems as if the medium and the soft tyres don't have much difference in them pace-wise, as of now.
Yeah, which is surprising, because I'm pretty sure in FS1 this season, the hards are usually about a second, let's say a couple seconds to a second slower.
Oh, and there goes Philip Koenig trying to get past. However, doesn't quite manage it, but still has the second opportunity into turn 4. Can he make it happen? It seems like he's a bit too far behind to make that happen. But yeah, sorry, what were you going to say about the tyres?
Yeah, usually the delta between them is about half a second to a second, so it's surprising to see that the hard tyres seem to be fairly quicker on this, but this does make me wonder if they are that close in the delta. Maybe I'm surprised that no one went for mediums in qualifying, to be honest, but...
Right, that is very surprising.
Oh, hards, I should say, not bad.
As you've said before, the fuel loads could very well be mixing up that delta. Oh no, as we see... Oh wow, good avoidance from Philip Koenig to just about react with his brakes to Adrian Faber spinning out there in that very, very treacherous last corner, as we've been saying.
Yeah, and I believe he kept all his wings, so might be a bit of damage, but at least he has all the wings. Obviously, it will hurt the tires a bit. He's on medium, so it shouldn't be that bad.
Yeah, that's good for him. It hasn't ruined his race completely, and 15 is still a points-paying position, I believe, isn't it?
Exactly, down to P15. As we're gonna now get a replay of the incident. Yeah, Adrian Faber on board. Obviously, last turn is very easy to lose the car, especially on the exit. And I think he did exactly that.
Yeah, he got his car 2 wheels over these very treacherous curbs, and that will just kill any stability that your car has over them, and nothing much that you can do right there.
Yeah, these curbs here around Austria, you don't want to touch them. They can easily kill you, so Faber got away quite good, I think, with only losing 3-4 positions. So I'd be happy with that. Well,
Yeah, obviously, I'd prefer that over to DNFing from this race.
Tom Stevens now is getting out of the slipstream. Now that's an interesting one. I haven't seen that in FS1 this season.
It could be cooling down the engines. However, yeah, I don't know much about how the engines run for this race. But yeah, interesting strategies there. I'd definitely be looking to keep in the slipstream if I were Tom. But yeah, like I said, I do not know the situation of these cars.
I think Tom Stevens has now settled for second, but Darius Andre has not settled for eighth because I think he just overtook Whoopke extra, or maybe he's defending from it. I think actually so. Darius Andre, after being right behind Denahan, is now 2 seconds and a half behind him. And
I reckon Denahan might have made a mistake while he was ahead of Darius, and he might have just rejoined right ahead of his teammate, and is now again trying to pull himself away from that gaggle of cars behind him.
As we see Mercedes under pressure from Adrian Faber, the guy who spun 2 laps ago, trying to get back into where he should be in this race. But I think Mercedes will get the RSC from Koenig, so it'll be very difficult.
Yeah, no, and he's done the same mistake again.
Yeah, he's redone.
That's a shame. And this time he has lost indeed his front wing, which will cost him time, and unfortunately doesn't look like he'll be making much of this race anymore.
Yeah, it's a big shame for Adrian Faber, but I think softs can do 20 laps. So he won't lose. He won't need to do an extra pit stop, but he will lose obviously a lot of time for repairing his car.
Yeah, absolutely. And like everyone always says, do not give up. You can always make it to the end and hope that other people make mistakes and you can capitalize from them. So wherever you end up, it's still possible.
Yeah, exactly. And also important to mention, Rain is in and around the circuit, but has not hit the circuit yet. However, it might do in well, and any time really. But
yeah, that's a good point.
You never know.
Rain could really spice this up with those mistakes being prevalent. Yeah,
especially in that factor, you never know when the rain's gonna hit. So he definitely should not give up just yet on this race. Still P20, but I think he's still. I'm not sure if he made it to the box yet or not. I don't think so.
As we see, Tom Stevens has closed up again to Ragosa, but doesn't look to be quite close enough for those dives that he could potentially do into these heavy braking zones.
As I believe we have a first speeder, Alessandro Valente, has boxed. I'm not quite sure which tires he started on, but he's going on. Can't quite see, but that looks like a long stop as well. Maybe he carried some damage.
It's about the halfway point of this race, so it makes sense that the pit window would be open right around now. Yeah, and it looks like he's gone for the soft tires. So
yeah, softs can do about 20 laps, I think. So he's.
You know, I have a theory. Those running with the medium tires, well, although none of them have pitted though, which is interesting. So what I was thinking is that those running the medium tires might have brought less fuel, knowing that the softs would be faster, and running the softs then for the longer bit of this event would then gain them more time. So, well, that was my theory anyway, until I realized that none of them on the medium tires have really quite pitted yet.
Yeah, I think actually I think both soft and hard tires will, well, people on them will pit around the same time. Obviously, we expect the pit window to be around lap 20 to lap around 23, 24 maybe. So should be fairly soon, and it'll be interesting to see how far the hard runners go.
Right.
As the top 3 is now settled, we haven't seen any moves for the last few laps. I think everyone now is waiting for the pit window.
Yeah, this is quite what I was sort of expecting at some point of the race, where you see everyone is very close together. However, it's not quite enough to make that difference and make it viable for anyone to really look for that opportunity or move against someone other. Because every time you go for that dive, you deviate from your racing line, you lose time. And
Okay,
Denahan hits.
That's an interesting because he did start on softs. He will now go on mediums at the half point of the race, which I'll be honest, this looks like an early stop to me. I'm not sure.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Why he decided to pit so early. I mean, if he comes out in clear, this might be an attempt for an undercut, which he will, I think. So at least he has that. At least he has clear air now. Maybe that's what he wanted, and we'll try and make the undercut work.
Yeah, potentially. As strategy game hasn't quite fully entered its climax yet, but Philip Koenig as well into the pit at the moment. And yeah, it looks all very calm and tidy at the moment. No one really wanting to risk any time loss as their tyres are starting to go and wear out more and more, making them more prevalent for mistakes.
No one decides to pit on this lap then from the front runners. Everyone's going at least one more lap. I think Tom Stevens is close enough this time around to Riosa if he wants to make the move. It'll be interesting to see if he decides to go for it or stay behind for another lap. As I believe he will stay behind. And I think Rogiosa might even get the DRS again from a back market, so he's getting quite lucky with that. Oh, he doesn't get it this lap, but still pretty interesting to see Rogiosa getting DRS a few times now. And I believe someone has dropped down a position, but I'm not sure who. As oh, there was Bobke Hoekstra who decided to pit. So now the pit window, I think the pit window is on right now. Will Rogiosa decide to pit this lap or will it stay? I think he's staying out. Everyone's staying out.
Yeah, obviously there's also the question of rain, but obviously no one can quite predict that. This being R Factor 2, even the racing gods are confused as to what the weather will be like in the next second. But let's take this time to also chat about what do you think of the current championship? How does it look like for the FS1 grid, as well as the constructors?
Well, let's put it aside because we just saw Tom Stevens overtaking Rogiosa for the lead.
Oh, my bad. I completely missed that. Okay, so this is starting to spice up right now. So now people might be going for their push laps and also simultaneously their in laps. So this could very much be a very critical point of the Grand Prix. Wouldn't want to miss that.
As Morris Kropp has pitted, which would suggest that his teammate might be pitting this lap, unless they're deciding to split the strategy a bit more than just one lap here.
Yeah.
Tom Stevens, let's see whether he decides to pit this lap or not. I think he's staying out for another lap. Rogiosa goes in, I think. Yeah, Rogiosa's in.
Yep, seems like it.
Goes over the line a bit, but that shouldn't. I don't think anyone will report that. Hopefully, at least. It'll be interesting to see where he comes out now.
I believe there's someone else behind. Owen McGorgy as well.
Oh.
So I believe this was very much a pit opposite of Tom Cole into the pits. I think this is very much where the pit window is open, and now everyone is free to choose when exactly they like to pit.
Exactly. As Rogiosa leaves the pits. Oh, there's McGorgy.
Oh,
yeah, that's exactly what I was talking about. People have put in more fuel to undercut in the pits. So that's a very clever move from Owen McGorgy.
That was strategically a perfect move from Owen.
And he's now provisionally in P3, I think.
So he has gotten back the places that he has lost from the start of this Grand Prix, essentially, and will now look to undercut those who have yet to pit. So it'll be interesting to see who will come out on top in these next
Tom
few
Stevens,
laps.
I think, is pitting this lap, so it'll be interesting to see where Owen McGorgy and Rogiosa are in comparison to him.
Yep, there we see him.
Frank Hemming surprisingly deciding to stay out another lap. So he's on a slightly different strategy than to other people.
Right, it seems like Tom might even be the sole pitter from this lap. That's interesting.
As Owen McGorgy now are on the final two corners. As Tom Stevens is released from the pit lane. Oh,
how
McGorgy
close will this?
actually
Oh no! There's no way. Owen has just lost it in the final corner of this track, as we've been talking about all day long. That corner is treacherous, and that also ensures that Tom will be getting that net lead of this Grand Prix.
And look at the gap he now has to Alexander Gauza, so that overcut working nice for him.
Absolutely. And that is such a shame for Owen, who looked to be so strong looking from qualifying. And yeah, unfortunately, a mistake like that will not be easy to overcome. And I don't believe Owen will quite be in the contention for the win, at least for this race. But there's always race 2.
Hemming and Carter's deciding to stay out yet another lap as Zubinski pits from P3, and he should rejoin around about where Rigosa and Mike Wind are at the moment. Interesting to see Hemming and Carter staying out so long, because I think on hard tires you can really push them for 10-15 laps without any drop off. So it's interesting to see them going up.
What's really intriguing about that is that Hemming has not even been off the pace by that much. He's kept quite reasonable pace to the leaders, and he's managed to carry obviously that much more fuel into this race.
As Zubinski now returns behind Mike Wind, who has not stopped yet. So he'll be looking to probably stop this on next lap. And Zubinski, I think, will look for a move on him because he does not want to lose any time. Now once again we see Frank Hemming entering the last sector, and I believe he's pitting. Yeah, I think he's pitting this lap. So it'll be interesting to see where he comes out, and Damien Kardash follows him into the pit lane. So that'll be interesting then to see where Hemming comes out compared to the likes of Stevens, Rigosa, and the rest.
Right, so at the moment, Tom Stevens will be regaining the net lead, I believe. Or, sorry, will be gaining the actual lead from this Grand Prix.
As he now goes over the line on the start-finish straight. So this should be the lead for Tom Stevens. Hemming leaves the pits, Kardash as well as Tom Stevens. There we go.
That is surprisingly close between Frank Hemming and Tom Stevens. That strategy has worked out perfectly for Frank. Look at that. He's only 1.5 seconds behind Tom, and that's absolutely racing for the lead.
Exactly. Frank Hemming has not finished on the podium in race 1 since the first run of the season, so he'll be very happy with P2, but the question is, can he push, can he get to Stevens and potentially win his first race 1 of the season? Obviously he won.
Well, he's got fresher tyres going into the second stint, so he's got the advantage. And it'll be very interesting to see what kind of a challenge he'll be able to mount onto Tom Stevens.
Tom Stevens actually with a personal best middle sector. So that's interesting to see. As Hemming is slightly slow in the middle sector, so I think Stevens should have this in the bag. Unless
let's not jump the gun yet. There's still about 13 laps left of this Grand Prix, so one lap won't count for it all. So let's see how Frank manages his pace for the foreseeable 5 laps. And now, obviously, as we see quite often in FS1, the front runners have now split a bit in the second stint due to the window. As we see quite a big angle of cars here, 4 cars all in one train, looking to get, is that P9 from each other?
Mark Watson takes the position away from Magogi, and Wopke Extra follows him.
Ooh.
So Owen Magogi dropping down to P11 and out of the possible reverse pole position as well, which is important to know.
Quite opportunistic there from Wopke as well. A very nice move indeed. As Moritz is still eyeing out the situation and gauging whether it is worth it to send one down into turn 4. However, he is still behind Owen and possibly looking to get past him very soon. Look at that. He's absolutely on his gearbox.
You don't want to get too close though, so he should be a bit careful. It's Frank Hemming. He takes the best lap of the race, and on that lap he was about 700 of a second faster than Stevens.
Yeah,
So
I was
game on.
expecting that, but yeah, it's again, the margins are tiny as we reach the top level, and as you said, 700ths. That is obviously, I wouldn't say a huge amount, but it is still counting towards all the remaining laps that we've got of this Grand Prix. As Moritz Kropp goes and looks for the outside line to potentially outbrake Owen. Does he? He manages to hold it around the outside. Will he have DRS though is the other question. If he does not have DRS, it looks like Owen has snatched that DRS off of Moritz and lives to fight another day in that position.
I believe he tactically backed out before the straight.
Yeah, it was smart from Owen.
As now Kropp will have to wait for another lap to try and pass. McCaughey obviously learned now that he needs to stay behind until the DRS is on. The DRS detection point.
Yep, although he has got some very, very good exit speed through the end of the second sector and looks to the inside. Can he make the overtake into the final corner? Yes, he can. What a move. A very...
Okay.
Although, I say that, yep. Looks like Owen is still trying to mount a charge here into turn 1. However, he's going to stay back and look for that DRS zone coming up right now. And will he be able to get past again? Or is this the position he will be stuck in? As it looks like Kropp might have the pace advantage over it. Although Owen gets it very wrong. And it looks like Owen has spun it. However, I've been told that it started raining. So this might just spice up to a whole different level right now.
4% rain, 5% are going up, which means that Inters might actually start to be on. Obviously, you do lose about 25 seconds boxing, but the question is, are you able to get it back in the last 8 laps of the race? This is gonna be tricky.
Wow. Okay. What a race!
I believe. Sorry to interrupt, but I believe Inters will be the way to go. 8% rain already.
Yep, wow, okay. Yeah, what a race to have myself jump into the commentary box, honestly. This is looking to be super spicy. With rain coming in on the final half of this race, this could very well shake up the whole pack.
It's not about who is the quickest anymore, it's about who can keep it on track.
Absolutely, who can keep it on track and who's also got the wits to know exactly when to come into the pits. And that was unexpectedly a rhyme.
Going up now to 8%. As Owen McCaughey is on the back of Vincent Gard, goes for a move up into P11.
And Owen goes around, well, the inside again through that corner. However, he does not spin this time, which is an improvement from last lap.
Gard's trying to get back at him, but he does not have DRS, so I believe he will stay behind this time around. As the gap at the front has come down to less than a second, and I believe DRS is still available for drivers out there.
Oh wow, you're absolutely right.
Frank Hamming will be on the back of Tom Stevens now. Still.
Will we see Ragosa and Kardash though closing into the top? It looks like Ragosa is also catching slightly.
And Frank Hamming will be praying now that the DRS stays available as long as until he passes Stevens, and then for the DRS to close as soon as he gets past.
That is absolutely true.
But by the looks of things, drivers opting to stay out on the dry tyres.
As there's a yellow in the middle sector for a moment. I wonder who that could have been. It looks like Darius Andre has made a move on Zubinski.
Yeah, that's good move. Obviously, Darius Andre on softs, which are even better. Obviously, they have the pace advantage already over hards, but in the rain, the delta between the soft and hard is even bigger. So that's good.
That's right, as Frank looks to get it very on the limit there, very sketchy through the left-hander, and it goes slightly wide. However, he's still within a second of Tom Stevens ahead and could very well be snatching that lead within the next few laps.
And at the front, Frank Hamming now less than half a second behind Tom Stevens, at least on my timing screen. He's 16 down now. 16 down. But with the DRS, he should be right up there once again at the end of the straight, or the end of the next straight.
And I retract what I said about Ragosa. It seems these top two are going very fast as they've gained essentially a second on those behind them. They are under pressure from each other to go even quicker, so it's going to be very interesting to see what's going to happen in the next few laps.
Here we go then, Frank Hemming with the overspeed of Tom Stevens, goes down the inside, sends it down the inside. Oh, but he goes wide on the exit.
There he goes, however. Oh, that's a TX3 as well in the grass. Good that he didn't rejoin into this battle, as Hemming seems to have gotten P1 from Tom Stevens and manages to keep it into Sector 2, and that, I think, is game over for Tom at the moment. Looks to be struggling there.
Yeah. And this could be a fifth different race 1 winner this season as it stands, but obviously with the rain, you can never be sure until you pass that checkered flag at the end. As Frank Hemming goes wide.
That's very dangerous.
That's going to allow Tom Stevens to be right back on him. Down the main straight, Stevens gets out of the DRS, decides to stay back and will try to get past Hemming on the straight now. With DRS, with that speed advantage.
Massive props for Hemming to keep that car in check around the outside there. I know that bit of the track is super bumpy. As we see, they're going side by side potentially into turn 3. Once again, Tom Stevens touches the side pod of Hemming's car just about. Is DRS even still active?
I am not sure, but I think with the speed...
it absolutely is. Tom Stevens has got DRS over Hemming and manages to get P1 once more.
As I believe we have the first inter-tire runner. We have Jason Muscat and Rafał Lukaszewski at the back. Obviously, you're out of the points. You may as well go on in to see the pace advantage, and everyone now will be looking at the inter-pace. And I believe they are actually faster now. But obviously the question is, with only 6 laps to go.
These top two, I reckon, will be looking at those inter-tire deltas with a magnifying glass.
I'll be honest, I'm getting Russia 2021 flashbacks right now.
Honestly, this looks very, very reminiscent of what has happened prior in real life, a Grand Prix. But as of right now, will DRS still be open? That is another question again. And it seems to be open for Frank Hemming again.
Darius Andre and Jake Gyllenhaal both pitting then teachers of guys deciding to risk it. But the rain has now gone down to 5% now, so the rain going down as Frank Hemming gets...
The fight lives on as Hemming is still hanging on to P1. Tom Stevens right behind him.
Rain is stopping down to 4% now, 3%. So I think staying out was definitely the better decision, and everyone boxing for Inters will be disappointed.
Yeah, I think you'll be right. That's quite quite a spanner in the works for those who've just pitted for Inters. There's really nothing he can do
as
at that point.
As the rain has now stopped completely, and we're back to dry. But obviously the track is still wet. You still want to stay on that racing line.
Yeah, it seems to be that there is a dry line still around the track. However, like you said, the rain stopped, but there is still rain on the unused parts of the track. So if you go on those, you'll be risking yourself spinning out. And at the moment, it looks like Hemming isn't even too much under pressure from Tom Stevens. It looks like the pace that Tom Stevens had has sort of died out.
Obviously, yes, that's 6 seconds gap behind him, so maybe he's deciding to stay behind, secure the 20 points for second place, and try and get more in race 2, as Darius Andre now passes Quickstrike, which is an interesting one, because Darius Andre is on the Inters, whereas Quickstrike is on the hard tires. So maybe the Inters are somewhat still working.
I think it could be down to the worn tyres and the Inters just being fresh out the box at the moment. But it very well, I think, is the crossover point where both tyres are essentially the same pace around the track.
Yeah, I'm looking at the sectors now on race 2, and I do see that all Inters runners are quite quick compared to the dry runners. I think Inters are faster, but I don't think they're quite fast enough to get back to 24 seconds or so you lose in the box. So it'll be interesting, and obviously softs will get just faster and faster as well since the track is drying again.
Yep, that is very true. As the top 10 seems to have settled for the time being, are there any battles going around on the track right now? It seems like the only two close drivers at the moment are Jason Muscat and Mike Quint.
And also Stupinski and Omari Watson here. Omari Watson on
Oh, that's very true.
the Polish driver.
Omari Watson, DRS Open.
Interestingly enough, Zybowski deciding to go on the wet part of the track, which probably wasn't the best of ideas. Allowing Watson to get past.
Interesting, but Omari having the softer compound, I think it wasn't much of a contest either. At some point he might have gone past.
And he'll be looking to pull away now from Zywinski. As the race lead seems to be settled now, 2 seconds the gap, and I think Frank Hemming might become the 5th winner then of race 1 this season, as someone overtook towards the midfield. I'm not quite sure who.
Yeah, I have to give it to Frank Hamming's strategy call though. That was absolutely brilliant. Coming out from the pit window, pitting much later than anyone else on track and managing to overcut them with a lighter car, and coming out right behind Tom Stevens after looking like he was somewhere for the fight for P4.
Sorry, Sandra goes down the inside of Moritz Krupp, makes the move into turn 1, who will get the DRS now down the second straight. I think Darius Andre got it, so that should be checkmate for him. And Jake Dennehan on the
another pair of rivals battling it out on the track, with Jake Dennehan taking P9 from Wopke Hoekstra. He's already passed before the turn even starts. Although Owen McGorgy as well, side by side with Vincent Gutt, it seems. He's super close to him on that exit, seems to be glued to his gearbox there. As he gets another attempt into turn 4, will he manage to outbrake him? It is very sketchy going into these damp parts of the track. However, Owen manages to stick it just perfectly ahead and is now in P11.
As we now head to the last lap of this race 1, Hemming looks to be in the lead, but you can never say never.
Yeah, at the moment it seems to be quite a calm cruising for Hemming though, although maybe I shouldn't say that. Tom is obviously going very fast still, trying to do whatever he can to keep close to him. Whether Frank Hemming does make a mistake or not. But
an interesting stat I have here. Frank Hemming has done 55 races in Formula Sprint 1. Won 4 of them, however he has never won race 1. So this is going to be his maiden race 1 win if he manages to keep it on track.
Oh wow, that's actually a good stat for Hemming to finally get his first race 1 win, as he seems to be doing it right now as we head on to the final sector of the track. The last 2 corners, bing and bang. Final corner, Frank Hemming comes to take P1 from Tom Stevens in race 1 of the Austrian Grand Prix. Well done to Frank Hemming. That was an incredible race we've seen between Tom Stevens and Frank Hemming. Damien Kardash taking that P3 to round up the podium. Very well done to those guys.
It's Polish 3-4-5. I'm sure they'll be very happy with that.
That's true.
Now the top 5 is over the line, as well as Omari Watson in P6. Damage limitation for the TTSO guys after probably the wrong call to box on Inters at the end. Krop comes out in finishes the race in P8, Dennehan P9. Extra P10, McGaugy overtakes Gutt once again, and they finish 11-12 as Mercedes finishes 13. Gets some nice points for Valle Sports. Fabian Valle on the team's debut, 2 points for the new team. And Mike Quint will cross over the line to be the last points finisher in race 1 in the Olympic 15.
Yeah, well done to them. And I believe it will be the GPVWC Polish Underground that'll be raving after that 3-4-5 finish.
Yeah, so very good finish for all of them. And also, obviously, once again, well done to Frank Hammond getting his first race 1 win in Formula Sprint 1. And
actually,
yeah, go on.
Sorry, go. No, mine isn't important.
Potentially, Hammond could be putting him back into the championship fight, being before in the championship. You know, he hasn't won a lot. He hasn't been on the podium since Australia, but he's been very consistent, and he might find himself back in the fight now.
Yeah, those are some big points to score for this Grand Prix, and all of that will be helping his cause.
And as we see on the screen now, the final positions rundown, we saw from P1 to P10, now we see from P11 to P20. And Jason Musica, that's an interesting one. First time this season that he hasn't scored points in race 1, so that's
just misses out on it as well.
Exactly, yeah, and I'm not sure how many runners we had actually this race. So I think we have another slide, but anyway, there we go. As we said, now we
we had a full grid.
Yeah, we're gonna take a short break now, and we will be back in a few minutes for race 2. Good evening once again, everyone, and welcome back to Spielberg. The first sprint race of the second half of the season in 2022 is ahead of us, and if race 1 is anything to go by, we're in for very entertaining 24 laps. With the top 8 finishers starting in reverse grid, it's Moritz Kropp on pole, and the race 1 winner Frank Hamming will start all the way down in P8. Quite the race ahead of us, isn't it, Jan?
Yeah, absolutely. It was a super exciting and interesting battle that we got in race 1, which I'm sure will carry over to the sprint race. However, again, strategy will not be quite as prevalent in this one. This one is more about raw pace, and we will see who exactly will be the most, how should I put it?
Smart.
I struggle to put the words in here, but sprint races tend to be more of the combination of being smart and also balls to the walls aggressive as you flip the grid from the top 10 or so, and you'll be looking to be racing those who are slightly slower than you on the grid.
Exactly, as the rain looks to be completely away now, 0% rain, and no rain expected in the next few minutes. But as we said in race 1, you can never be 100% sure, especially when there's clouds around. Yeah,
it was a surprise rain attack for the last few laps, which really spiced things up for the race 1. And we'll be looking if that happens into race 2. It'll make it just as interesting.
As we now head on the formation lap. And as we said, it's Moritz Kropp on pole position. There is Andrei in P2 with Tamar Watson and Mateusz Biński in 3rd and 4th. Alexander Goza, Damon Kadash, Stevens and Hamming will round up the reverse grid. And then we continue in the grid of race 1 with Jack Danahan in 10th, Jack Danahan 9th, Wopke Extra in 10th. And then we have Owen McGaughey, Vincent Gall in 11th and 12th, joined by Mercedes and Bale in row 7. Quint and Muscat 15th, 16th. Then we have Koenig, Faber, Pedersen and Lukaszewski rounding out the top 20. Then to Bodon, Valente, Tumela and Panasenko rounding out the whole grid.
As we see, they continue their warm-up lap. Into the middle sector we go, and this is where all of the pace will show. Most of the battles, however, do not certainly appear at this part of the track. However, each time we see cars going side by side, it never ceases to amaze me, as it is quite exciting to see through such a high speed yet technical part of the track.
Exactly, and it'll be interesting now to see if maybe people have gone for a different setup, because obviously you can change the setup between race 1 and race 2, and ideally you do want some extra top speed in race 2, especially if you're starting in the pack, in the middle pack.
That is very true.
As we do have some issues with the broadcast, and we're hoping to get this sorted as soon as possible, but the race will go ahead nonetheless, of course.
Yep, and we'll be looking to commentate this for you guys, although you'll be able to see these cars on your screen, but the graphics might be blocking your view a tiny bit. We'll be hoping to get rid of that as soon as we possibly can. However, the cars have lined up and we are ready to go for the sprint race. And it is lights out, and away we go as I stumble on my words. However, it looks to be a clean start from Moritz Kropp into turn 1, although he has lost out slightly, and there's a spin from P3. I do not know exactly who that was. However, it looks like the top 2 have survived going into turn 3. They are right now, and someone even taking over to the grass with their other side of the car.
I believe that was Owen McGogy, who was also pushed aside and now will lose a few positions.
Yes, and there he goes around the outside, almost through the escape road, and rejoins the track.
With Darius into the
oh no, and they've gone! No way! Oh my goodness, that was...
crash out, and now, oh my days, that is not what they would have wanted. But now, this means it is a 1-2 for the Polish underground. It's Mateusz Zabinski and Aleksander Rogowza, first and second.
You're absolutely right. But yeah, that's such a shame. I couldn't even believe it. It looked like one of those two locked up their rears and just couldn't help it but crash into the other.
Yes, Kropp retires, which means we won't have any broadcast for the foreseeable future, which means this is now a radio show.
Well, yep, that seems to be the case. And well, Marko, you have the details of this race going in the background. I currently see as much as the viewers do, so please, if you could tell me what is going on at the track.
It's now Rogowza and Zabinski at the front, as Rogowza does go on the outside and takes the lead off Mateusz Zabinski. And now Zabinski with Luke at the back of Rogowza, trying to get the lead back of him, and it's Jake Danahan in P3 with Stevens in P4, Hamming Kardas P5-6, Owen McGorgy this got, and Philip Koenig running off the top 10 for now.
So it's been a pretty decent start for those who finished high up in race 1, but for those Moritz Kropp it was, and Jake Danahan, their races ended up abruptly. Or was it, sorry, which one of the TCS off guys was it?
It was Darius Andre who crashed out, and is now last of the runners down P23.
So yes, indeed, we still have Jake Danahan running in this race, as the broadcast seems to try and sort itself out.
As now we have Danahan going side by side with Zabinski for P2. Zabinski will stay ahead, but Danahan goes for the switch back into turn 3 and goes ahead now. However, Jake Danahan going for the move once again, but I think he will stay behind for now.
How's the DNF situation looking like? We only got Moritz and Darius at the back, or
Yeah, it's only Krop who's DNF. Darius actually is still going, but obviously he is now lost and quite a bit behind everyone else.
I see.
He has
So
gone on softs now, interestingly enough.
well, surprisingly, apart from the incident between Darius and Moritz, it seems to have been quite a clean start from these guys.
Yeah, exactly. And now it's still Zubinski, Danahan, and Stevens 2, 3, and 4 in the in the DRS train. And Ragosa looks to be driving away. Also, another interesting stat I have for you is that Ragosa, the last race he has won in GPV was race 2 in Austria last season. So,
oh wow,
he might
could he make it?
He's
or an anniversary driver.
He's trying to make it back-to-back wins in Austria. As I believe the broadcast might be back now.
Yep, broadcast is back up. Here we see the current order of Ragosa leading the race and Zubinski, Denahan following with Stevens in P4 and Hamming in P5.
As Jake Denahan is still behind Zubinski. Obviously, I think once he gets by Zubinski, he might have the pace to go Ragosa as well. Obviously, 24 laps is quite a lot. So there is enough time to make the moves, if you have the pace, of course.
Yeah, it's by no means a complete sprint. You still have to keep in mind you're racing for about nearly an hour, or how long do these races usually last? Like 40 minutes or so. It's you can't really say it's a marathon, not a sprint, as this is quite obviously even in its name called a sprint. However, it is very true that you have to remain consistent, patient, but also determined to take those positions and win the race.
And just to correct myself, actually, Ragosa has won one more race last season. That was the last race of the season in Brazil.
Aha.
So, but still, it's rare that he wins, but he could win on the same circuit as last season, which is still interesting.
Yeah, it's looking good. He's really pulling away from the rest of the grid at the moment. It seems like he's almost got a 2-second buffer there for a second. And at the moment, this pack seems to have settled for the foreseeable. Well, everyone's still under the DRS and slipstream train, so
speaking of,
it looks like
now Jake Denahan is on
Denahan is eyeing out a move.
Going out the outside. I think he has to move down. Will Zubinski try and go back at him for turn 4 there? Zubinski, I think, gets the run. I think he gets the DRS as well. Vincent got then rear-ends someone. I believe that was Philip Koenig. As the Ferlic, he's letting back.
Cars going back and forth in the grid, and it's it's super tight over there. And Mike Quinn, is he? No, he's. Yeah, I was going to say that would have been brave trying to send one down there. However, he might get one of the other Valet sports cars, is he?
Well, looks like blocking the entire field now, but he's working for them.
It is looking quite good.
If it's allowed, then they're fine. So.
Mm-hmm.
And now Jack Denahan did get by Zubinski, and it'll be interesting to see whether he can go at Ragosa and potentially win this race too. Obviously, Denahan has won in the last 3 rounds, and is looking to make it at 4. Obviously, still well and truly in the championship fight as well.
Yeah, that would be a good stat for him. But yeah, as I was going to say about those Valley guys, I don't mind those sorts of trolley trains with the amount of battling that ensues with those. However, Tom Stevens goes and sends one down onto Zubinski and is determined enough to take that position despite all the contact. And it is looking very spicy indeed behind them. Even Frank Hamming looking to do the same down the inside. And can he stick it? Yes, he can. And he's now up into P4.
Frank Hamming on the softy compound, and most cars ahead and behind him. So he's looking to make. He's looking to benefit from that. Obviously, early in the race, as the race goes on, obviously the soft tires will drop off and lose the the delta they have at the start of the race.
Yeah, so tell me, are the soft tyres, or like, do the medium and soft tyres compare in total race time in the sprint races?
Well, sometimes you see people starting in soft, sometimes you see them on hards. It really depends on the track. But I mean, soft tyres here, 24 laps, I think it is doable. It's stretchful. I think it will stretch at the end, 3-4 laps at the end.
I see.
It's definitely doable around here.
So then McGolgi looks for a move around the outside of Zubinski, and Zubinski really falling down the order here, although McGolgi makes a slight mistake and goes a bit wide, and doesn't look like he'll be getting that position for this lap.
As Ragosa is actually keeping the same gap to Danahan right now, so the question is whether he's pushing, maybe trying to increase the gap, but will Danahan get back at him?
Oh, and Adrian Faber going around the defending from Jason Muscat, I'm sorry. And looks like Adrian Faber has to look at the back of Jason Muscat's car for now.
Yeah, exactly, as this train goes all the way up to P8, and we see here Frank Hemming behind Tom Stevens, the rivals from race 1. Are gonna go wheel to wheel once again by the looks of things in race 2. Frank Hemming on the back of Tom Stevens. I'm not sure if Tom Stevens has the RS. I don't think he has it. As we also see McGolgi trying to go around the outside of Zubinski. He makes the mistake and he's up to P5. So after that lap 1 mistake, he's doing a very good job.
Indeed he is, and yeah, this time manages to stick the move into turn 3. Where he went wide last lap. Now Zubinski is under pressure from the other gallery car behind him.
We see the Vale cars now, I believe, swapping for position, if I'm not mistaken. Mercedes.
Oh, that's interesting. Omari is looking for that outside line. Can he stick to it? No, it doesn't seem like he's got the grip. But still sticking behind those valet cars, it very much looks like a trolley train right here, and I don't mind. This obviously means we get to see quite a lot of racing behind these cars.
Obviously, Vale Esports have never had 2 cars in the top 10 this season, so they're pretty good now running in P9 and 10, and I'm sure they will do everything to stay there, as we see once again swapping.
That would be good. Yeah, that's very interesting strategies there by the Valet cars. If they do manage to keep those positions by the end of the race, massive props to them.
As we now we see Frank Hemming on the back of Tom Stevens. I believe he will try and go for a move around the outside of turn 4. Obviously, that's a very risky move. He decides to back out of it and stay behind for another lap.
Yeah, got to be careful with those. As we saw in lap 1 of the race, having seen the incident between Krop and Andre, it seems like that corner might be a risky corner to sort of lock up the rears at if you've set up your brake balance wrong.
And I'm not quite sure what happened, but Amari Watson has now got past both Vale cars.
Oh, wow.
I'm not sure, maybe they've done a mistake or something, but that is quite impressive from the pit.
Indeed it is, but again, a lot of tight, close quarters battles happening with the cars behind them, and that is incredibly close coming into the final corner. As we're looking at Adrian Faber eyeing out a move on those in front of him, as is Jason Muscat in front of him.
Exactly, and we see once again then, here we go, Frank Hemming, Tom Stevens, probably around 10 at this point.
Oh, here we go, once more. Can he brake later than Tom Stevens into the corner? Can he stick it around the outside? Yes, no contact so far, very clean, as we're now looking to the inside of the left-hander right here, very high speed. However, Frank Hemming cannot quite stick himself far enough, and well, Tom lives to fight another day in P3.
Yeah, exactly, and they might want to stay as they are and try to catch Denahan ahead. So it's interesting to see Hemming trying to get past Stevens, maybe thinking he has way more pace than him, which, I mean, it does look like it, but I'm not sure how much faster he can be.
Yeah, he's looking very pacey out there, isn't he? Although he is on the soft tyre compound, which Tom Stevens' race will come to him eventually.
I mean, Stevens might try and risk it, let Hemming ahead, and then stay with him in DRS and wait for the soft tyres to drop off, and then overtake him again towards the end of the race.
That is a fair point.
Hemming does get past Stevens now. He sends it into turn 3, but now Stevens is on the back of Hemming once again. We'll go
once more
outside.
we go side by side into turn 4. Will we see a repeat of last lap? Hemming this time though on the outside, and isn't quite close enough. Again going into the left-hander. It seems like Tom Stevens is just ahead again.
Stevens
pretty much deja vu.
on the inside last lap, this time around the outside.
Yeah, we're seeing a proper variety of moves by these guys, but they know exactly what to do. They're still keeping position, and it's amazing to see.
Yeah, it's nice to see such clean battles tonight.
Absolutely.
As I'm sure Stevens will have a hard time keeping Hemming behind for the next 12 laps as well. So it's not over just yet for those two. But obviously, if they're not careful enough, Owen McGoggin P5 is catching them rapidly, and will try to become the third driver in this track.
We're looking again at these two going side by side for God knows how many times this is by now, but Frank Hemming seems to be slightly ahead going into turn 4, but Tom Stevens will again try to get the slipstream off of him. And now look for a possible move down the inside. Will he try to outbrake him? Oh, it looks like Frank Hemming has outbraked himself slightly, however, still keeps it ahead of Tom Stevens. And Tom Stevens actually still manages to almost get side by side with him. However, Frank Hemming seems to have kept this one for good.
And I think Owen McGoggin is now almost within a second of Tom Stevens. So he will be the third car joining this party here for the last podium.
Yeah, that's true. And Zubinski has actually managed to keep pace with Owen, so game is not over yet for Zubinski. It's looking quite good actually for him. If he manages to keep with that pace, he could very well be looking at the battle for the top.
Here we go once again, Tom Stevens against Frank Hemming for the 4th lap in a row. Stevens this time once again deciding to
There's no way.
Take slip.
Are we going to see these side by side once more? It's going to be very interesting as Tom Stevens now at the exit. Will he get good enough slipstream and DRS aid to get into turn 4 ahead? No, he will not. It doesn't seem like it. And Frank Hemming seems to have really taken this one for P3.
And now Tom Stevens will be getting flashbacks from Baku because ahead of him it's Darius Andre a lap behind. Who, because he spun in Baku, it meant Tom Stevens dropped a few positions from what it looked like an easy win from him. So this will be an interesting one. How does Darius Andre let Tom Stevens past?
I think I recall something like that actually, watching something like that, and well, yeah, you wouldn't want something like that happening, although this is a much wider track and way more opportunities for you to get past lap traffic.
As here we go once again with McGoggin, Zubinski and Karash. I don't think they're close enough to each other to go for a move up into turn 3. And Owen McGoggin, I'm not sure if he got DRS even. No, he didn't get DRS from Stevens, but I think he will get it on the following lap. Which meant now the disc went from a two-car fight to about a 5-car fight.
Yeah, that is absolutely true. It's Ragosa still leading by quite a margin as well. He's up to 2.2 seconds up ahead of Jake Denahan, who is currently keeping all these cars behind from P2 to P6.
And Darius Andre is now getting blue flag, so it'll be interesting to see when he decides to move out of the way. Hemming is very close to take Denahan ahead as well. So Hemming will be annoyed with the fact that Darius Andre is still not gotten out of the way. You can see him there following his teammate, but he should really get out of the way very soon.
Yeah, obviously this is a very problematic situation, however, because when there's a huge gaggle of cars like this battling and you're a car fighting a lap behind, you don't want to sort of let everyone pass at the same time, because you'll lose a massive amount of time. Look at that train. See, if you slowed down right now, you'd probably be around another 5 seconds down the road by just that.
But now Darius Andre unlapping himself from Jack Danahan has allowed Hamming to get side by side with the Irishman. However, Danahan taking the slipstream from Darius Andre.
Oh, this could be a very dodgy moment right here. Oh, Frank
Andre's-
Hamming forces himself into that position and is currently looking to get... Oh, wait, is that Darius trying to unlap himself from Frank? That is
Darius is
brave.
fighting people here lap around, which isn't the best of ideas, I'll be honest.
Yeah, it could very well be reportable at this point, because you are essentially costing the race of others who are a lap ahead of you. As much as you want to fight for your own race, it is not in the rule books to impede on those who are
I'm
full lap ahead of you.
He has now been getting blue flags for about 2 laps. He has gone past about 50 poles blue flags now.
Yeah,
So this
yeah.
could be a hefty penalty if reported, of course.
It is a very problematic situation, though, I have to say, because, again, that train of cars, Darius letting them all pass, essentially loses this race as well. But at the same time, Darius isn't really racing anyone, so it's, again, yeah.
As Frank Hamming and Jack Danahan will go side by side into turn 4. Jack Danahan on the outside with the hard tire, Hamming on the inside with the soft tire. Hamming brakes late. They touch a bit, but I think it's all good for now. And Jack Danahan stays behind Hamming for second place. All of this is happening. Rogoza is absolutely loving life in P1 right now.
I can imagine him with quite the smug face at the moment, just looking at his mirrors with everyone falling behind as of right now. Although Hamming will be closing in on him, I reckon. But will it be enough? That'll be something we'll have to see by the end of this race, as Jake Danahan and Darius continue once more another lap right behind each other. And this could be very problematic, again, looking at Tom Stevens obviously battling for the podium here, but Darius is essentially just a mobile chicane in front of him.
I'm not sure if the in-game penalties are on for blue flags, but that would be interesting if he gets potentially even an in-game penalty for ignoring blue flags. As he has to go for a move on Darius, which I have to say at this point, this is very reportable. This is not acceptable for someone who is one lap behind. And as Darius finally gets out of the way of both Thomas Stevens and Owen McGorgy. And now this has allowed Jack Danahan and Hamming to slightly increase the gap to the rest. And also Stevens, I believe, may be outside of the DRS zone. It'll be very close, but actually I think he'll be back in it. So the fight is still on with 7 laps to go.
Yeah, it's all looking to spice up towards the end, as Hamming really is closing up to Ragosa at the moment. But again, this is about 7 laps remaining. Make that 6, right? Oh, no. Sorry, wait. Yes, 6 laps, sorry. And Hamming has already cut the gap down to almost 2 seconds.
He's off.
No, he's gone off. Hamming has lost it out of turn 1 as he was looking to potentially seize the win for race 2. That is a very, that is a shame for Frank Hamming, as he was looking super strong this time.
From P2 to P7 in a second. That is not what you want. As now Jack Danahan will be vulnerable from Tom Stevens behind, as he lost his DRS.
Oh, this is looking very spicy indeed.
And we have the 3 championship protagonists now, 2nd, 3rd and 4th. Exactly.
Wow. Danahan seems to have lost some pace though for this weekend, or just the TCS off in general don't seem to be as pacey. However, Jake has found himself in this position and will do everything to defend that P2 from Tom Stevens.
Exactly, yes. As we see now, Tom Stevens about half a second behind Jake Danahan, followed by Owen McGorgy in P4. as well as Damien Kardash in P5, although he seems to be slightly behind. And now Tom Stevens on the straight with the DRS and Denahan. Denahan goes defensive. Stevens with the DRS. He'll go around the...
Denahan will certainly feel the pressure of this approaching Nocturne as Tom Stevens decides to let... Oh no, and that's Darius Andre actually around, so that's Lap's car around. Very confusing moment there, but I think Tom Stevens wanted to get DRS for the next straight to seal the deal essentially for Sector 2. However, it seems that Jake Denahan has still kept P2. So I've received information that it seemed like Darius might have dived Owen McGorgy and caused the spin himself. So at this rate, it looks like Owen might have damage or maybe not. However, that will not be ideal for Owen's race.
That's absolutely disgraceful. I'm sorry, but that is not acceptable.
Yeah, it's very hard, obviously, knowing that you're not racing these people. But it is very clearly stated in the rulebook that you are not allowed to race or impede on those who are a full lap ahead of you, and that is exactly what Darius Andre has been doing.
Tom Stevens and Jake Denahan go at it again. I'm pretty sure Tom Stevens has been side by side into turn 4.
Wow, what a... He has sent it around the outside there against Jake. However, Jake seems to have the DRS.
Yeah. And will go down the inside and stay ahead, although Tom Stevens tries to brake lane, backs out of it, which will allow Owen McGorgy to get on the back of him.
You know, I think it's very evident now the TCS off guys are running much more downforce than their rivals, and that it's allowing Jake Denahan to brake just that much more later, where Tom just can't do much about it into turn 4.
Yeah, that has now allowed also Damien Kardash to fully close back to this, so it's a 4-5 battle again, as Rugosa extends his lead to 4 seconds.
That is emerging to be quite a cracking battle for a P2 at the moment. Kardash, do not count Kardash out of this one either. Like, they are all super close together, and Jake Denahan just...
Yeah, almost loses the car, but now he's back.
Wow.
And Tom Stevens now on the back of him. Once again, we go into turn 3.
Jake just around barely hanging on. But this time it looks like Tom might have sealed the deal.
Yeah, but Jake Denahan will try and get back ahead, obviously, now with DRS. Tom Stevens will stay on the inside with Jake Denahan going on the outside.
Oh, he could go for another late braking move, and that could mean danger for both of them, although they've emerged cleanly through that corner. Will Jake Denahan try to make it around the inside? Oh, and he will send it down the inside in Sector 2, and he'll barely cling on to that P2 position, with Tom Stevens having to concede yet again. And it must be frustrating being in that cockpit right now, knowing that you have the pace, but Jake just will not give up.
Only 2 laps remaining now, 20 corners. Can Tom Stevens get ahead of Jake Denahan and stay there?
Honestly, I'm willing to almost give Jake Denahan the title of Minister of Defence after this race, seeing how well he's clinged onto that position. If he can manage to do that for the rest of these 2 laps, that would be an incredible fight to witness. And honestly, huge props for Denahan not giving up, as he is constantly under so much pressure.
Denahan not with the best of exit now out of turn 3. Stevens on the back of him once again. And once again, they will go side by side into turn 4. This time Stevens on the outside, Denahan on the inside.
Oh wow, it's like a game of chess, isn't it? With them having to constantly come up with something new going into the next corners. However, this time it looks like Tom Stevens has finally sealed the deal and taking that P2 from Jake Denahan. And that will
that
be...
is a back marker.
Thankfully that's on the gravel. Yep.
As now looks like Tom Stevens does have the pace then to go ahead of Jake Denahan. And I believe Jake might even lose the DRS to Stevens, which will allow Owen McGorgy.
That would be catastrophic for Jake, because he needs to defend from Owen McGorgy and Kardash, who are behind him. Although, I will say, Owen is under huge pressure from Kardash himself.
And I believe Danahan just about got the DRS there, so Owen McCoggy will not be able to attack him as we go into the last few corners of the Austrian Grand Prix.
Oh, and more side-by-side action, yeah.
As we
Is
see,
that
who's that? I think that's Zubinski.
Zubinski?
Fighting out.
Yes, indeed it is. And Hamming looking to get one more position out of the mistake that he caused himself.
And the soft tires still working well for him by the looks of it.
Yep, indeed they are, which is surprising. But yeah, it has to be said, Hamming has amazing pace this time out, and he might just take that P6 Willie. Zubinski is hanging on tight. Will they go side? They're going side by side through Sector 2. This is what I was saying at the beginning of this Grand Prix. This is incredible to watch. Wheel-to-wheel action through the middle sector. But here we see Alexander Ragosa.
He won last year.
Going to win.
This year, it's 20 points for Ragosa in race 2. Tom Stevens with double P2 finish this time around.
Amazing.
Joins him on the podium. And it's Gogi from Karash to Zubinski all the way out to P6. Omari Watson, P8 with Frank Kevin P7. And Quint and Musaidis round out the top 10.
Yeah, that was quite the cracking battle for the final laps of this race. I really enjoyed that one with Zubinski and Hamming. That was very, very nice. And obviously, Tom Stevens and Jake Denhan battling it out for that P2 for almost half of this race, just constantly going side by side. That was incredible to watch.
What a fight, what an event this has been, and another great evening for Formula Sprint 1. I don't think we've seen one boring race so far this season in this championship.
Yeah, it's incredible to have the opportunity to also commentate for this one. Honestly, what an evening this has been. This has been a series of some of the greatest races I've honestly seen in GPV.
Now we wait for people to join us for interviews. As of right now, there is no one waiting, but we will wait a few more seconds for drivers obviously to cool down in their own voice chats and to join the interview room. And as we can see on the screen, next time around we go to a completely different track. From a track where overtaking is fairly easy to the track where overtaking is almost impossible. We go to the Hungaroring in Hungary in 2 weeks' time.
Yes, I believe someone has called it the Monaco without the walls.
Exactly, and I do like that expression. Yes, it is fairly accurate.
Indeed.
As there is still no one waiting for interview, but gonna give it another minute.
Give it a minute. I reckon everyone's still excited from the climax of that race, which was super exciting to watch from our side as well. Can't even imagine what it was like to be one of the drivers there, feeling that immense pressure that comes with racing.
Oh, and one side I just found out, obviously looking at the results, Fabian Bale for virtual drivers, obviously the team's debut, has scored 2 points in both races, finishing P14.
That's
which is a good outing, I guess.
Yeah, certainly. It's you always want to be scoring points, and managing to do so already on your debut means good things for the future.
Well, I think
I wonder what.
I think we're gonna have to wrap it here then, if no one's joining for an interview.
Oh, we could still chat about what exactly the championship looks like after this round. Give it a few more minutes and then we'll wrap it out.
I'm not exactly sure now, obviously, what the championship does look like, but it's still very close between Denhan, Stevens, and McGorgy, as well as team championship between Nocturne and TTSoff. Nocturne, I think, might have extended the lead since Darius didn't have the best of days.
Yeah, it has to be said as well. Darius might be suffering for the rounds that are upcoming as well. See, looking at his sprint drive, which was not quite, well, just to put it bluntly, not really acceptable. So yeah, it certainly was an interesting round. All kinds of drama, but also an equal amount of positive feelings and new winners, with Frank Hamming taking his first ever Race 1 victory.
Okay.
But it really does seem like it is quite the desert in the interview room, so we might have to just wrap it here. So thank you everyone for joining us. It was a pleasure to commentate.
We'll see you on Tuesday for Super Lights, and then in a week's time for the main event here at Austria for the Super League round. And also, don't forget, in 2 weeks' time, we're back with Formula Sprint 1, as we previously said, and the Hungarian GP at the Hungaroring. See you then.